So I was standing at the finish line taking video of runners as they were coming in, and all of a sudden I heard a massive boom. I saw a white plume of smoke, and when that cleared, we heard a second boom, and we immediately knew that it was attack. We could see what was clearly the most horrific thing anyone could see, which was a lot of people lying on a sidewalk, their limbs mangled, their eyes vacant, shattered glass mixed with a lot of blood. I did feel the concussiveness of the blast. My ears are still ringing, and it was appeared to be on the sidewalk. There were runners in front of me that were down, but it doesn't look like the full brunt of the blast hit them directly. I've run the Boston Marathon 3 times. I used to describe crossing onto Boylston Street, sort of the last hurrah of the marathon, as like to use a baseball analogy from the States. It was like hitting a home run at Fenway Park here in Boston. The roar of the crowd is tremendous on Boylston Street, and generally the crowd is biggest right by the finish line. Many people who have loved ones who are crossing the finish line are there hoping to greet their runners who've just made it the distance. And it was carefully placed to maximize violence, it seems. I would say there were hundreds of people on both sides of the street right by the finish line.
Now, of course, you can just imagine the scene inside the Oval Office in Washington. The president gets the news. Immediately, the thinking is, who is behind this? Was it indeed Al-Qaeda? Was it perhaps an act of domestic terrorism? There are so many strange, almost uncanny coincidences that might even point in that direction. The fact that it was Patriots' Day on Monday, the fact that it was tax day on Monday, and there are a lot of right-wing extremists who don't like the idea that they have to pay any federal tax. The fact that this was also the week in which the Waco massacre took place, in which the Oklahoma bombing took place. There are so many extraordinary events here, but as yet, not a single shred of evidence to point in any direction. Let's hear this report from our correspondent Jonathan Miller.
In the desolation of the crime scene, a small black crater on the sidewalk, where 24 hours ago thousands ran and thousands laughed and cheered. Now the marathon task of delivering on the Obama promise that whoever did this would feel the full weight of justice. This week marks the anniversaries of several past American national traumas. 20 years since the showdown with the cult in Waco, Texas. 18 since the Oklahoma bombing. Then came Columbine in 1999, and 8 years later, Virginia Tech. Anniversaries offer symbolism. Domestic extremists, possibly right-wingers or random lone actors, harbour many grievances and come in many guises. So, was the Boston bomber homegrown?
Well, there's a wide range of right-wing militias that we could be looking at. And of course, the consistent factor with a lot of these is they have some sort of grievance against the government. And so that would be the kind of group we could be talking about, either a lone wolf or a small group that has something against the government, probably against the government intervening in their lives.
The Boston bomb has injured more than any terrorist attack since 9/11. But there have been others, and in our post-9/11 world, Al-Qaeda and its franchise operations are ready suspects. The Pakistani Taliban claimed the attempted bombing at Times Square 5 years ago, although today they told Channel 4 News they had nothing to do with Boston. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula claimed the attempted bombing of a Delta airliner in 2009. Its online magazine last year listed crowded sports arenas among suggested targets for mass slaughter. A plethora of organized jihadi groups worldwide made direct threats against America and carried out violent retaliatory attacks on US interests following the release of a US movie trailer in July last year, which many Muslims thought offensive.
Analyzing the target, it's pointing to Al-Qaeda or its affiliate groups. Then it happened before. We have many times, including the failed Times Square attack, 2009, which is proved and TTP, Taliban Pakistan, they were behind it themselves, and they claimed the responsibility about that. And we have the problem with drone attacks. We know from our sources, the global jihadi community, they're frustrated and really they're working very hard to try to put an end to drone campaign against them.
Amid the hypotheticals, one certainty: whoever did this knew there'd be cameras on the finish line. Examination of the footage shows the bombing was covered from all angles, a theatre of terror. There were set-piece TV cameras in various positions, some rolling live and streaming online. Mobile phone and amateur camera footage was being broadcast across America and the world within minutes of the bombings. CCTV cameras mounted on buildings lining Boylston Street will doubtless reveal yet more. First to emerge were stills posted on social networking sites like Twitter. The media were doing their job informing the world, but in doing so on 24-hour TV news, the internet and via mobile phones, they've served to magnify the impact of this act of terrorism beyond the bloodied finish line on Boston's Boylston Street, instilling fear of further atrocities to come. That's what terror is, and that's how terror works. To the perpetrator, success is measured by the global impact of the action. Watch out for a second wave of coverage following any claim of responsibility. Today's terrorists are media savvy.
So I was standing at the finish line taking video of runners as they were coming in, and all of a sudden I heard a massive boom. I saw a white plume of smoke, and when that cleared, we heard a second boom, and we immediately knew that it was attack. We could see what was clearly the most horrific thing anyone could see, which was a lot of people lying on a sidewalk, their limbs mangled, their eyes vacant, shattered glass mixed with a lot of blood. I did feel the concussiveness of the blast. My ears are still ringing.